Parents drained my college fund for Golden Sister Sweet 16. Now they're regretting it. Hey everyone, I'm in a really tough spot right now, and I could use some advice or just someone to listen. My name is Emma, I'm almost 18, and I found myself in the middle of a huge family mess that's got me questioning everything I thought I knew about my family, especially my parents. From the time I was little, I knew I wanted to do something big, like becoming a neurosurgeon. I've always been fascinated by science and medicine, and my grandparents, who were more like my second parents, fully supported this dream. My grandpa, who I was incredibly close to, wasn't a college graduate himself, but believed strongly in the power of education. He often told me stories about how he wished he'd had the opportunity to go to college and wanted to make sure I got that chance. To ensure I could focus on my studies without worrying about the financial burden, my grandpa set up a savings account specifically for my college tuition. He started this fund when I was just starting middle school, and over the years, he diligently added money to it, turning it into what should have been a $50,000 nest egg by the time I was ready to go off to college. This money was sacred. It represented not just my future, but my grandpa's commitment to me and his belief in my potential. However, my relationship with my parents has always been a bit strained, especially compared to the warmth and support I felt from my grandparents. My parents had me young and seemed to struggle with the responsibilities. They were often more focused on their own lives and problems. My mom had me shortly after she graduated high school, and my dad has always been the more laid-back type, not really pushing himself or me. When I was 16, my grandpa passed away, and that was a massive blow to me, not just emotionally, but also because I worried about my college fund. My parents reassured me that everything was taken care of, and that the money was waiting for me when I needed it. Trusting them, I focused on my studies, worked hard, and even secured a partial scholarship that covered my tuition for the first 2 years of university. But I knew I needed the fund for other expenses like books, living costs, and the years the scholarship didn't cover. Recently, I decided to check the status of the account just to make sure everything was in order. I was completely blindsided to find only $10,000 left. My heart sank. When I confronted my parents, their initial reaction was to feign ignorance. They claimed they didn't know what happened, or that perhaps my grandpa hadn't saved as much as I thought. But as I pressed harder, the truth came out. They admitted they had used the money to buy my younger sister Lily a new car for her 16th birthday. They justified it by saying that since I had a scholarship, I wouldn't need the money as much, and they wanted to give Lily something special to boost her spirits during a tough time at school. I was devastated, not just by the loss of the money, but by the betrayal. I couldn't believe they would jeopardize my future for a car and then try to brush it off like it was nothing. The argument that followed was bitter and painful. My mom accused me of being selfish and ungrateful, saying I should be happy for my sister and not cause a scene. The fallout has been massive. My entire family is divided, with most siding with my parents, saying I should let it go and focus on my scholarship. But how can I just let it go? This was more than money. It was my grandpa's legacy and my future. Now I'm considering taking legal action to recover some of the funds, but the idea of suing my parents feels like crossing a point of no return. Yet, I feel like I have no other choice if I want to protect my education and honor my grandpa's wishes. I'm stuck, hurt, and confused. Should I fight for what was promised to me, or try to mend things with my family even if it means losing out on my dreams? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Am I being an a-hole for requesting what is rightfully mine? Thanks for listening. Update. So after a ton of arguing and some serious discussions, my dad finally agreed to cancel the car order he made for my sister's Sweet 16. That's right, he went to the dealership and managed to get a refund for the car. It was a huge relief for me because that money was supposed to be for my college, not for a fancy new car. I was pretty firm with my parents about the whole situation. I told them I'd hold off on the lawsuit I was planning, but only if I got back every single penny that was taken from my college savings account. Plus, I made sure they couldn't access the account anymore. No more surprises. You wouldn't believe the drama that caused, though. My sister started sending me these super mean texts, calling me jealous because I didn't get a car for my birthday like she was supposed to. She totally flipped out when my dad told her he was returning the car. Now, she's been bad-mouthing me to anyone who'll listen, and my mom is actually blaming me for my sister acting so spoiled. They've both been giving me the silent treatment, which honestly doesn't bother me much. We've never been that close anyway. What really matters to me is that I'm getting my college fund back. That money is my ticket to a better future, and I wasn't about to let it slip away because of a birthday gift gone way over the top. It feels good to know that I stood up for myself, and even though it's caused some tension, I know I did the right thing. Now I can focus on my studies and my plans without worrying about how I'm going to pay for school. Now for the top comments before update 2. You're not the a-hole, Opie. The rest of your family members, except your grandparents, are eagles. Your mom, sister, and father are bigger ales. The money is yours. They had no right to use it for anything, especially not to buy a car for your 16-year-old sister. Their actions make it so obvious that you aren't their favorite. Your sister is. The rest of the family members should call them out for that because no good parents should make any child feel less by having favorites. You did the right thing by threatening to sue. You need the money. It was yours, not theirs. About your sister's hateful comments? I hope she learns to be a better person as she grows older. If not, then she can just blame your parents. Good luck with your studies, Update 2. Hey everyone, I never thought things could get worse, but here I am, more shocked and hurt than ever. After my parents tried to use my college fund to buy my sister a car, I thought the worst was behind me. But it turns out, they were just getting started. A few days ago, my parents sat me down for what they called a family meeting. I thought they might finally be ready to apologize, or at least talk things through rationally. Instead, they hit me with a new demand that left me reeling. They said my sister, Lily, really needed that car to get to her new job in school, and it was crucial for her well-being. They insisted I should split the money 50 to 50 inches with her, meaning I would have to give her $20,000 from my college fund. If I didn't, they threatened to kick me out of the house. I was stunned. I couldn't believe they were still trying to take money meant for my education and future. They tried to guilt trip me, saying that as a family, we should support each other, and that I was being selfish for not helping my sister. My dad even said, "You can always take out student loans, but Lily needs this car now." I told them firmly that I wouldn't give up any more of my college fund. That money was my grandpa's legacy and my ticket to achieving my dreams. Their response was to give me an ultimatum. Either I agree to their terms, or I find somewhere else to live. Feeling cornered and betrayed, I decided to take drastic action. I gathered all the evidence of what they'd done and went to the police to file for a restraining order. I explained the situation in detail, providing proof of their threats and manipulation. The police were understanding and took my case seriously. They helped me file for a temporary restraining order against my parents, which would protect me from being kicked out and ensure they couldn't touch my college fund. I also sought legal advice about potentially suing them for the misused funds. When my parents found out about the restraining order, they were furious. My dad tried to downplay the whole thing, saying I was overreacting and that it was just a family matter. But the truth was, they had crossed too many lines, and I couldn't let them jeopardize my future any longer. The restraining order was granted, giving me the protection I needed. I also moved out and found a temporary place to stay with a friend. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, anger, sadness, and relief all at once. I never wanted it to come to this, but I realized that I had to take a stand for myself and my future. My relationship with my parents and sister is likely damaged beyond repair, but I know I did the right thing. I won't let anyone take advantage of me or undermine my dreams, no matter who they are. I'm focusing on my studies and my future, knowing that my grandpa would be proud of me for standing up for myself. Thank you to everyone who has offered support and advice. It's been a tough journey, but your words have meant a lot to me. I hope my story can inspire others to stand up for themselves, even when it's incredibly difficult. Update 3. Hey everyone. I never expected to be writing another update so soon, but what happened recently has been nothing short of astonishing. Just when I thought my situation couldn't get any more dramatic, my grandpa stepped in, turning everything on its head. After I filed for the restraining order and moved out to stay with a friend, I decided to reach out to my grandpa's brother, my great-uncle, to let him know what was happening. I felt he deserved to know the truth about how my parents had been treating me and misusing the money that my grandpa had worked so hard to save for my education. What I didn't know was that my great-uncle had kept in close touch with my grandpa's side of the family, even after my grandpa's passing. He was furious when he heard about the betrayal and manipulation I had endured. Without wasting any time, he contacted my grandpa's older brother, my great-uncle, and a man of considerable influence in the family. To my complete surprise, the very next day, my great-uncle called me and said he had arranged a meeting with the family. He invited me to his house and assured me that I would have a place to stay for as long as I needed. Feeling a mix of apprehension and relief, I accepted his offer and moved into his home, where I was welcomed with open arms. During the family meeting, my great-uncle laid out everything he knew about the situation, making it clear that he would not tolerate such behavior. He then dropped a bombshell. He threatened my parents and anyone else involved that they would be cut out of his will if they didn't return the money and stop their manipulative tactics immediately. My parents were visibly shocked and scared. They knew how significant my great-uncle's financial standing was, and the thought of being cut off from his will sent them into a panic. My dad tried to argue that it was all a misunderstanding, but my great-uncle wasn't having any of it. He demanded they repay the full amount taken from my college fund, plus interest, within a week, or they would be permanently disinherited. The atmosphere was tense as my parents realized the gravity of their situation. Faced with the potential loss of a substantial inheritance, they quickly agreed to return the money. The next few days were a whirlwind as they scrambled to gather the funds and transfer them back into my account. Once the money was returned, my great-uncle made it clear that any further attempts to undermine my future would not be tolerated. He assured me that he would keep a close eye on things, and that I could always count on him for support. His actions not only restored my college fund, but also gave me a newfound sense of security and belonging. My sister, however, was not happy with the outcome. She continued to blame me for the loss of her car and spread rumors about me being selfish and vindictive. But with my great-uncle's backing and the support of other extended family members who now knew the truth, her words held little power. I'm incredibly grateful for my great-uncle's intervention and the support of the extended family. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, but I finally feel like I can breathe again. I'm focusing on my studies and preparing for the next steps in my education, knowing that my future is secure and that I have a strong support system behind me. Thank you all for your unwavering support and advice throughout this ordeal. Your encouragement has meant the world to me, and I hope my story can continue to inspire others to stand up for what is right, no matter how difficult it may seem. Update 4. Hey everyone, I never imagined I would have to write another update, but life has a way of throwing unexpected twists at us. After moving in with my great-uncle and feeling a glimmer of hope for my future, things took yet another shocking turn. Despite my great-uncle's stern warning and the threat of being cut out of his will, my parents still didn't return the money they had taken from my college fund. They made a few small payments, but it became clear that they were stalling, hoping I would back down or give up. They even tried to convince my great-uncle that they were working on it, but I saw through their lies. Frustrated and determined to reclaim what was rightfully mine, I decided to take the legal route. I consulted with a lawyer who specialized in family disputes and financial misappropriation. With his help, I filed a lawsuit against my parents for the full amount of the misused funds, plus interest and legal fees. It was a tough decision, but I knew it was the only way to ensure my future was secure. The court process was grueling. My parents tried to paint me as an ungrateful and spoiled child who was overreacting. They argued that they had every right to use the money as they saw fit, given that they were my legal guardians. However, we had solid evidence, including my grandpa's will and detailed records of the savings account meant for my education. The courtroom battle lasted several weeks. It was emotionally draining, but I had the unwavering support of my great-uncle and my lawyer, who fought tirelessly on my behalf. The turning point came when the judge reviewed the evidence and heard testimonies from my great-uncle and other family members who confirmed my parents' deceit and manipulation. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. My parents were ordered to repay the full amount of the misused funds, plus interest and all legal fees. The total amount was significant, and it put them in a precarious financial situation. They had to liquidate some of their assets and take out loans to come up with the money. I received the full restitution, which restored my college fund and covered all my legal expenses. The victory was bittersweet. While I was relieved to have the financial security I needed for my education, it was heartbreaking to see how far my parents had fallen. Their actions had not only jeopardized my future, but also strained our family bonds beyond repair. My sister, who had been hostile and resentful throughout the ordeal, blamed me for our parents' financial problems. She continued to spread rumors and tried to turn other family members against me. However, most of the extended family, who had witnessed the court proceedings, supported me and understood the necessity of my actions. Moving forward, I've decided to focus on my education and future. Living with my great-uncle has provided me with a stable and supportive environment. I'm more determined than ever to achieve my dream of becoming a neurosurgeon and honoring my grandpa's legacy. This journey has taught me the importance of standing up for oneself, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. It's been a tough road, but I'm proud of the steps I've taken to secure my future and protect my rights. Thank you once again to everyone who has followed my story and offered support. Your encouragement has been a beacon of hope during these challenging times. I hope my story continues to inspire others to fight for what is right and never give up on their dreams, no matter the obstacles. Update 5. Hey everyone, I thought I had seen it all, but life has proven me wrong yet again. After winning the court case and finally securing my college fund, I thought the worst was behind me. However, my family found a new way to make things difficult: social media. My parents, unable to accept the court's decision and desperate to salvage their reputation, took to social media to badmouth me. They painted a picture of me as a greedy, ungrateful daughter who had turned her back on her family for money. My sister joined in, sharing posts and stories that accused me of tearing the family apart for my selfish gain. They portrayed themselves as the victims of my supposed heartlessness. These posts quickly gained traction within our extended family and community. People who had known us for years were shocked, and many took my parents' side without knowing the full story. I started receiving messages from relatives and family friends, accusing me of being cruel and selfish. Some were outright hostile, while others expressed disappointment and urged me to reconcile with my parents. It was incredibly disheartening to see how easily people believed the distorted version of events. I felt isolated and betrayed all over again. However, I decided to take the high road and not engage in a public social media battle. Instead, I reached out privately to those who had contacted me, hoping to explain my side of the story. I sent detailed messages to relatives who had reached out, explaining the truth about what had happened: the misuse of my college fund, the threats, and the eventual court battle. I included evidence from the court case, including the judge's ruling and the testimonies that had supported my claims. It was emotionally exhausting, but I knew it was the only way to clear my name and restore some semblance of peace. To my surprise, many relatives responded with shock and disbelief, not at me, but at my parents. They had no idea the extent of what had transpired and were horrified to learn the truth. Some apologized for jumping to conclusions and thanked me for sharing my side. A few even admitted that they had always sensed something was off about my parents' narrative, but hadn't wanted to question it without more information. The most shocking turn of events came when several key relatives decided to cut off contact with my parents altogether. They expressed their disgust at my parents' behavior and manipulation and stood by me in solidarity. They publicly announced their support for me on social media, sharing the true story and condemning the false accusations my parents had spread. It was a powerful and unexpected show of support that helped turn the tide of public opinion. This public support from relatives had a ripple effect. Friends and community members who had initially sided with my parents began to reach out to me, offering apologies and support. The social media narrative shifted, and my parents found themselves increasingly isolated. While the situation is still far from perfect, I feel a renewed sense of hope and validation. The support from relatives and friends has been a lifeline, reminding me that truth and integrity do matter. I've learned that even in the darkest times, there can be unexpected allies who stand up for what is right. As for my parents and sister, their continued attempts to smear my name have only backfired, further damaging their own reputation. I've decided to focus on my future and leave them to deal with the consequences of their actions. Thank you to everyone who has followed my journey and offered support. Your encouragement has been invaluable, and I hope my story continues to inspire others to stand up for themselves, even when it seems the whole world is against you. Update 6. Hey everyone, after the social media fiasco and the court victory, I was finally able to start college with my restored funds and the support of my great uncle and a few loyal relatives. I was excited about my new beginning, ready to immerse myself in my studies and build the future I had always dreamed of. College life has been amazing so far. I've made new friends, settled into my classes, and started participating in extracurricular activities related to my field of study. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was truly on the right path, free from the chaos and toxicity of my family's drama. But just as I was beginning to feel secure, my family made another move. Out of nowhere, I received a series of messages from my parents and sister, all expressing a desire to reconcile. They claimed to miss me and apologized for the hurt they had caused. They said they wanted to make things right and start fresh. To be honest, my initial reaction was anger and suspicion. After everything they had put me through, stealing my college fund, manipulating me, dragging me through a court battle, and slandering me on social media, it was hard to believe their sudden change of heart was genuine. My gut told me there was something off about their timing and their motives. I decided to confront them, demanding an explanation for their sudden desire to reconcile. Their responses were vague and filled with excuses, which only heightened my suspicion. They insisted they had seen the error of their ways and wanted to rebuild our relationship, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was an ulterior motive behind their sudden about-face. Given the history and the timing, right as I was starting college and moving forward with my life, it felt like another trick or manipulation. I knew I had to protect myself and not fall into another trap of their making. so I made a tough decision. I told them, in no uncertain terms, to go away. I said that I didn't trust their intentions and that I needed to focus on my own life and my studies. I made it clear that after everything they had done, reconciliation was not an option, at least not now. They needed to prove through consistent actions over time that they had truly changed, and even then, I wasn't sure I could ever trust them again. My parents and sister did not take this well. They accused me of being heartless and unforgiving, trying to guilt-trip me once again. But this time, I stood firm. I blocked their numbers and social media accounts to ensure they couldn't disrupt my life any further. I shared this latest development with my great-uncle and some of the relatives who had supported me. They agreed that my family's attempt at reconciliation seemed suspicious and advised me to focus on my studies and well-being. College is my chance to build the life I want, free from the toxic influence of my parents. I've decided to prioritize my education, my mental health, and the supportive relationships I've built with my great-uncle and my new friends at school. This is my time to shine and prove to myself that I can overcome any obstacle. Thank you to everyone who has been following my journey and offering support. Your encouragement has been a beacon of light through these dark times. I hope my story continues to inspire others to stand up for themselves and pursue their dreams, no matter what challenges they face. Here's to new beginnings and a future filled with hope and success. Update 7. Hey everyone, I didn't think my story could get any more shocking, but life has proven me wrong once again. After starting college and telling my family to stay out of my life, things took a dramatic turn that I never saw coming. A few weeks into my first semester, I received a message from a distant relative with some jaw-dropping news. My father had sold our family home. The house where I grew up, where all our memories were made, was now gone. The reason? He needed the money to pay for the legal fees from my court case, the very case where I won back my college fund, and they were ordered to cover my legal expenses. I was stunned. My parents had been so confident they would win the case, they never anticipated having to pay such a hefty sum. When the judge ruled in my favor, it left them in a dire financial situation. They had tried to scrape together the money by liquidating assets and taking out loans, but it wasn't enough. Ultimately, they were forced to sell the house to cover the remaining costs. The news spread quickly through the family, and the reactions were mixed. Some relatives felt sorry for my parents, viewing them as victims of a harsh consequence. Others saw it as poetic justice for their deceit and manipulation. As for me, I was conflicted. While I felt a sense of vindication, I also couldn't ignore the sadness of seeing my childhood home sold off because of their actions. My sister, predictably, blamed me entirely for the loss. She accused me of destroying the family and taking everything from them. Her bitterness only deepened, and she made it clear she wanted nothing more to do with me. My parents, now homeless and struggling to rebuild their lives, reached out once more, begging for reconciliation and help. This time, however, I felt no guilt in refusing. They had brought this upon themselves with their decisions and actions. They chose to misuse my college fund, to manipulate and threaten me, and to drag me through a painful legal battle. The sale of the house was the natural consequence of those choices. I explained to them that while I was sorry for their situation, I couldn't be responsible for fixing the mess they had created. I needed to focus on my future and my education. I offered my help in finding them resources and services that could assist them, but I made it clear that I would not be drawn back into their toxic cycle. Living with my great-uncle continues to provide the stability and support I need. He has been a rock through all of this, helping me stay focused on my studies and reminding me of the importance of self-preservation. I'm excelling in my classes and making the most of the opportunities before me. This whole ordeal has been a harsh lesson in the complexities of family dynamics and the importance of standing up for oneself. It's been a painful journey, but I know I am stronger for it. My grandpa's legacy and belief in my potential continue to motivate me every day, and I am determined to make the most of the life he wanted for me. Thank you all for your unwavering support and encouragement. Your messages and advice have been invaluable, and I hope my story can serve as a beacon of strength for others facing similar challenges. Remember, it's okay to stand your ground and prioritize your well-being, even when it feels like the hardest thing to do. Here's to forging ahead and creating a future built on strength, resilience, and integrity. Update 8. A few days ago, my parents reached out to me again, this time with a desperate plea. They explained that after selling the house to pay for my legal fees, they had exhausted all their resources. They had been staying with friends and extended family, but those arrangements were falling through. They were now facing the very real possibility of being homeless. Their solution? They wanted me to ask my great-uncle to forgive them and allow them to move in with him. They said that since he had taken me in, it was only fair that he should help them out as well. They insisted that with my influence, I could convince him to forgive their past actions and offer them a place to stay. I was stunned by their audacity. After everything they had done, misusing my college fund, manipulating me, slandering me on social media, and dragging me through a grueling court battle, they had the nerve to ask for my help to secure them a place in my great-uncle's home. I knew I had to handle this carefully. My great-uncle had been incredibly supportive and generous, and I didn't want to put him in an uncomfortable position. I decided to have an open and honest conversation with him about the situation. When I explained my parents' request, my great-uncle was both shocked and disappointed. He couldn't believe they had the gall to ask for such a favor after all they had put me through. He made it clear that while he sympathized with their plight, he couldn't condone their actions or reward their behavior by letting them move in. He also reminded me that their manipulative tendencies were still very much a part of their character, and allowing them into his home could create a toxic environment for both of us. He reassured me that I had his full support and that I didn't owe my parents anything after the way they had treated me. Feeling validated and supported, I relayed my great-uncle's decision to my parents. As expected, they didn't take it well. They accused me of being heartless and vindictive, claiming that I was enjoying their suffering. They tried to guilt-trip me once more, but this time I was resolute. I told them that while I didn't take pleasure in their hardship, I couldn't in good conscience ask my great-uncle to forgive them and take them in. They needed to take responsibility for their actions and find a way to rebuild their lives without dragging others down with them. This experience has reinforced the importance of setting boundaries and protecting oneself from toxic influences, even when they come from family. It's a painful lesson, but one that has made me stronger and more determined to build a life based on honesty, integrity, and self-respect. As I continue my studies and work towards my dreams, I'm grateful for the support of my great-uncle and the new friends I've made at college. Their encouragement reminds me that I am on the right path and that I have the strength to overcome any challenges that come my way. Thank you once again to everyone who has followed my journey and offered their support. Your words of encouragement have been a source of strength and comfort. I hope my story continues to inspire others to stand up for themselves and prioritize their well-being, no matter the obstacles they face. Here's to a future filled with hope, resilience, and the courage to forge our own paths.